My name is Ali, I'm a doctor and YouTuber.
I'm Taimur, I'm a data scientist and writer.
And you're listening to Not Overthinking,
the weekly podcast where we think about happiness, creativity, and the human condition.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not Overthinking. Taimur, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad, thanks. I just got back from a week in Malawi a couple of days ago. I had a friend's wedding there. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago.
Wait, so you had a week in Malawi?
A week in Malawi.
Malawi is in Africa.
That's right, yeah.
It's a country.
It's a country.
And you went there for a wedding?
I went there for a friend's wedding.
Okay.
It was like a destination wedding. I think it was my first destination wedding, actually.
Why did they get married in Malawi?
The bride's family are sort of from Malawi and she's kind of grown up there and stuff.
Oh, okay. Because initially I thought it was a case of, you know, the nice thing about inviting people to Malawi is you can invite loads of people and only very few of them will actually come.
Yeah, so I think that is actually a really nice thing. So I think from most of the bride's like family and extended family and friends and local community were there. But from the groom's side, most of his like network is in the UK and in the US. And so not that many sort of his side came, I think, apart from like close family and close friends. So it was really, really nice because it just felt like very intimate. We sort of went on this adventure together for a week.
Low social optionality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one of the big sort of appeals for me, that this would be a great opportunity for a low social optionality holiday where you can connect with new people, make new friends, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you're glad that you went to Malawi?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what's our topic for this week?
Yeah, so in Malawi, I sort of met maybe like 10 or 12, we were sort of a group of 10 or 12 of the groom's friends from the US and the UK. And most of us didn't really know each other beforehand. And so it sort of got me thinking about like the whole process of making friends and connecting with people and that kind of thing, you know? I think we should talk a bit about making friends because I don't think I've explicitly talked about this.
How to make friends.
How to make friends.
All right, we're doing it. This is the episode on how to make friends. So what angle are we going to take from this?
I think maybe we should start at like the beginning. Like how did we make friends when we were younger, and how does that sort of change over time, and what do you kind of learn, and what do you unlearn, and that kind of stuff. So let's go back to primary school. I'm guessing you don't remember much about your mental state when we were living in Lesotho, sort of up to age 6, 7.
Not really, but I can probably infer my mental state from my actions, because the actions that we take in order to further certain motives likely give some kind of indication of our mental state.
Okay, what actions were you taking up to age 6?
And the first thing that comes to mind is I was a massive show off.
Really? In primary school, years 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, no, years 1, 2, 3. And I guess I had the mental model that in order to make friends, you have to be impressive. But the way that would kind of implement itself would be I would just be quite showy offy about and just lie through my teeth about things that just clearly were patently false.
Like what?
Oh, you've only been on the spot now. So I vividly remember one time when we were living in Africa, where we had this house next to the school, and I just made up some BS that I had some kind of science experiment running in the garden, and it was like really cool, and I drew out some kind of like weird chemical thing with like pipes and stuff everywhere, and I was like, yeah, I've got this in the back garden. I just kind of do some experiments in my spare time.
Oh my god!
And then one of the kids commented, "Hang on, in your diagram, how's the liquid going up?" and I remember thinking, crap, he's got me. And I just was like, oh, you know, it just is.
It's science. Don't worry about it.
It's gravity, man. Ever heard of it? And just this whole sort of showy off mentality. And I don't know, I think it kind of relates to what we were talking about with signaling and how kids love to signal things.
Yeah.
That must be something to do with, you know, if I signal how great or how important I am in whatever domain, people will then like me.
Did it work?
I think I had a few friends.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I feel I had friends in spite of my showy offness rather than because of it.
That's interesting.
What about you? Do you have any recollections?
I don't think I remember any particular things I used to do up to like age 6 or 7. No, I don't remember. I didn't think I was really sentient at the time, or like conscious. Yeah, it's just all like, I don't remember any of it.
I think So when I was around sort of like 7, 8, that was when we'd moved to Pakistan for a year. So we were in this new school and kind of just starting this process of making new friends.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that then was based on shared interests. Like the people that I became the closest to were the ones who enjoyed playing Pokemon on the Game Boy at the time, or the ones who enjoyed Pokemon cards. And I remember I had this friend called Zen, who's he was semi-entrepreneurial like me, and we had this incredible idea, right? He was like, hey, Ali, you know, there's this amazing website called Google, and if you go on Google.com, you can type in Pokemon card pictures, and then you can print off photographs of Pokemon cards, and you can stick them onto other Pokemon cards, and then you can sell those for a profit.
Wow.
And that was the first time I discovered this website, Google.com, and started to, in our little computer. And
Wait, so you guys were 7 years old, you're on Google.com.
Yeah. trying to figure out ways to hustle some money, man.
Wow. Did you do it? Did it work?
I remember one time I was on the computer ostensibly doing work, and then I was on google.com, and it was like in a window, and I tried minimizing it to get to actual work, and our aunt came into the room and was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? And saw Pokemon card photographs on google.com.
Worst thing. You don't want someone walking in on that.
And had to somehow justify it. I can't remember what it was.
It's not what it looks like. I'm just trying to make a quick buck.
So I don't really think it worked. I'm not sure we sold any copies, but it got me. It introduced me to google.com, and that changed my life.
Yeah, I guess it's about the friends you made along the way.
Exactly. It's not about the treasure at the end of the road.
Okay, I think I actually echo that sentiment. I think, actually, do I? Who were my friends when we were in Pakistan for a year? Yeah, again, I don't really remember. I think it's, I wasn't really conscious at the time.
When do you think you gained consciousness?
I think I can probably remember stuff from primary school in the UK onwards.
Okay. How did you make friends in primary school in the UK? Because that was a new environment. You were in year 3, I was in year 4. We're coming in halfway through the school year group in a school where we were essentially the only brown people.
Yeah. So this was like year 3, basically. Yeah, year 3, 4, 5.
So kind of age 8. So when we were kind of 7, 8, we moved to the UK.
Yeah. So I remember there was one kid who we had something in common in that he was actually South African, like his family was South African. And so I can't remember exactly how we ended up becoming friends, but I do remember that being like a talking point of some sort, right? And I think there was also a bit of shared interest. Like he was also into wrestling and that kind of, you watch like WWE and that kind of thing.
Nice.
And so like I remember we talked about wrestling a few times.
And someone would walk in and be like, it's not what it looks like. It's just wrestling.
Nice. That was good. So that was one of my close friends. I feel like in primary school I was just like a really nice, chill dude. I didn't really. I don't think I was sort of conscious at this stage. I didn't have any internal monologue or anything. It was just pure, unadulterated me. And I think I was just like really nice and pleasant to everyone.
Okay.
And I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, but I think I was like super popular in primary school.
Okay. Popular as in you'd be picked first for the football team?
In a sense. In the if low social optionality holidays were a football team, I'd be picked first. So there was like there was a school trip in like year 3, I think it was year 4 or something. School trip for like 2 days or something, like a residential trip. And the room picking process was that you like write a list of like 3 names who you want on your thing. And so my friends and I, my like close group of friends and I, we all strategized to say, okay, you'll put me as number 1, he'll put him as number 1, and so we'll like figure out the order so that we have to be together basically. And so we had this great plan. We did this. But then it turned out that like a couple of other people who I was friends with, but I didn't think we were like best friends or anything. They sort of put me down as number 1. And so I ended up sharing a room with a couple of other people and sort of separately from my friends. And that was a bit of like a, whoa, all right, that's really nice.
People actually like me.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I just think like I was just pure, unadulterated, nice, chill, pleasant dude that didn't overthink anything. And I think I just really got on with everyone.
Oh damn, I'm so jealous. That's like the opposite to my experience of kind of room sorting out.
Really? What
so
happened with
I remember when we had the residential trips in year 4, in the first year, I was pretty good friends with the people on my table, and so we all kind of had this thing that we'd kind of do it together, and we would invite each other to our birthday parties, and it was all very nice. I didn't have too much in common with them. Sort of as we went through primary school, the next year I ended up kind of making friends with the nerds. So there was this other guy who I used to play chess with. There was this other guy who was like super into Harry Potter and stuff, and we'd kind of exchange Harry Potter trivia, lol. But these 2 guys were like the class nerds / the sort of social outcasts of the class, and I just kind of threw my lot in with them. And so when it came to choosing rooms and stuff, I remember kind of being very torn between this thing of I kind of want to hang out with the cool people, and this thing of, well, I actually quite enjoy hanging out with the nerds, and so it ended up being some kind of hybrid of the 2. And I think the more I progressed through in year 6, I'd really cemented my friendship with the nerds, and then at that point I was like, you know what, I don't care about trying to be cool.
Wow, that's amazing. So you were aware of like the cool and nerdy stuff?
Oh god, yeah,
explicitly at the time.
The people who were there was a strong correlation between ability at PE sports and how cool you were.
That's That's really interesting because we're at the same school and I don't remember. I mean, look, there were definitely people who were sort of cooler than others, but actually, yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, I think it was probably a thing. Yeah. So your friends were sort of shared interest friends because like you both
shared interest friends, and then in year 6 when we had this kind of like a top set maths group, which you were actually part of despite being a year younger. Or
yeah, I don't like to brag, but
then within that was kind of a group of like only like 10 people in like the school.
I remember that. That was a nice group. That was good vibes.
That was a sick atmosphere.
That was great.
It was like all of the quote clever people who all had their own quirks and interests and stuff, and were just kind of pleasant to be around and hang out with.
I remember there were a couple of cool people in there.
Yeah, like there was Rory. He was quite cool.
Yeah, I remember him.
But he was quite good at football as well.
Okay.
I think that's why he was cool. There was Jack, he was also quite good at football, which is why he was cool. I think it was really like anyway. So I suppose for me in primary school it was a case of kind of shared interest, but also I was quite showy-offy. I think my showy-offiness extended into the first few years of secondary school.
Yeah. Did that go well?
I mean, I made friends, but again, I don't think it was because of the showy-offness. But
Showing off about what?
So at the time, I remember having this thing of trying to one up people in terms of how good I was at maths.
Oh my God.
I don't think I've told you this. It was like because we had this like tutor who used to come around to our house in year 6 and help us out when we were doing like sin, cos, and tan and stuff in like year 5 and 6. So like in like math lessons, I'd kind of I can't remember this very clearly, but I think I do this whole thing of like, hey guys, I've done GCSE level maths.
Oh mate.
And one time our friends Sahel and Sahib, like their mum came over to the house because we were playing like Ratchet and Clank or something on the PlayStation, and she like mentioned to Nani that I hear Ali's very good at GCSE maths, and then Nani pointed out to me, she was like, wait a minute, have you been being a dick? Have you been telling people you do GCSE? You've got to cut it out. And I think from that point on I was like, oh damn, yeah, you're right, Nani.
Yeah.
So I think my showy-offiness extended to kind of year 7 and 8 as well.
How conscious were you about making friends in like year 7, 8 and let's say 9?
I think it was a concern when I was going in. Like I was worried that I wouldn't have friends, and I was like really hanging on to the fact that we already knew like 2 people at the school, and I was like, okay, cool. If worst comes to worst, I kind of be friends with those guys.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't think too hard about it, and you just sort of gravitate towards people who are also nerds with shared interests.
Yeah, I guess it just sort of happens. I think at the start of secondary school, I had a couple of friends from primary school who were also going to the same secondary school, and so we still stayed really good friends, and that was nice to have. Then I think I sort of gravitated towards, I actually don't really remember. I think I switched friendship groups a lot in the first few years.
You were
of secondary
really
school.
Promiscuous in your friendships, whereas my same group from year 7 stayed continuous too now.
Yeah, I think so. I think one thing that really kind of mixed up the friendship stuff for me was, once again, low social optionality holidays. So I went on a lot of school trips, maybe like probably on average 1.5 or 2 residential sort of trips per year. And that would be like a nice mixing pot, because it sort of forced you to hang out with people who you're not usually friends with. And so there was like a ski trip where I ended up like sharing a room with a couple of people who, I barely knew beforehand. There was like trips to France and stuff. I think through like the school trips, I ended up sort of getting in with like a new group of people. And so I think, they sort of acted as a catalyst for me switching around groups and stuff. But I do remember at the start of secondary school, it was like not cool to be academic or whatever. And so I was definitely like one of the more nerdy ones.
To put it mildly.
But then I think I remember that towards like GCSE time, it then kind of normalized and everyone kind of started valuing academics a bit more. And then the sort of nerd jock divide kind of went away. And I think by the end of secondary school, it was like basically non-existent, where everyone was friends with everyone. It was like really nice, good vibes. I think I sort of, it was kind of nice towards the end.
So when did you, did you ever start to actively think about the process of making friends and like being this idea of popularity type, or as like a key performance indicator?
As a KPI. Yeah, I think I was definitely thinking about. So I remember you brought this up in the past, but I think in year 8 I had some like phase where I wanted to be cool, and I was hanging out with some like some of the more chavs. I don't know if that's the right word, but more of like the cooler kids.
So for the record, when Tim got into year 8, he got a BlackBerry and started messaging people.
I didn't get a BlackBerry.
It wasn't BlackBerry. It was like a Nokia with
I got
like
a sliding phone
with a keyboard. It had a physical keyboard on it.
It did, yeah.
And you would hang out kind of by the girls' school at lunchtime, and you had some like girls' school friends, and you used to like gel up your hair with like the 3 little bits of hair sticking up, just to paint the picture of what Tame was like in year 8.
Yeah, so I think at that time I was actually extremely conscious about the cool thing, and it was basically my life's purpose to sort of be cool and get in with the cool kids.
Be cool, man.
Yeah.
Just be cool.
So I think, I was sort of in with a few different crowds in an attempt to kind of do that.
Why do you think that was?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I do remember this being like a massive part of what I cared about. Doesn't every kid care about that?
No. So actually, I think it comes down to a discussion that we had earlier about what your sources of identity are.
Okay.
So, for example, for me, again, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I came into the school ranked number 1 in the 11 plus, and so my whole spiel every single year was like, I have to maintain my position as rank 1, and so my whole kind of being was focused kind of on that, and therefore this idea of kind of trying to be cool, trying to be popular, was not even on the radar, because the only source of identity I had in my life was, ranking top of the year, and then I just had my friends on the side.
Really?
And that was absolutely fine. And I suspect that your thing, like, you weren't sort of working that hard to solely rank number 1.
I didn't really care about that.
Yeah, and so you had to find other sources of identity. Is my theory. And the most salient, the most obvious source of identity is to be cool at that point.
That's interesting.
Like, for example, if you were someone like Ben Grosvenor, who was like this piano prodigy at our school, your only identity is the fact that you're a piano prodigy, and your whole life is wound up around that. You're probably not trying to be cool.
Yeah, you're sorted.
Yeah. So I think it's similar in that popularity then becomes the most obvious source of identity, and people strive for that.
Yeah, that sounds like a plausible theory. I think that might. I refuse. Actually, I don't know. I think you're just weird, and you cared about like coming top of the year, and you didn't care about being cool. But I imagine like other people who also cared about academics a lot would have still cared about being cool. Don't you think?
I don't know. If I think about the top 5 in my year group, I don't think any of them cared about being cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it is the identity thing.
Yeah.
But
then, like, for example, in your year, someone like Manu, who was fairly close to top of the year, if not top of the year, was also cool because he was good at sports and just like pleasant and nice generally.
He's a really great guy. Yeah. I don't know what. I sort of started to get to know him sort of GCSEs onwards. So I don't know what the first few years were like for him.
Oh, it'd be interesting to have him on the podcast.
Yeah. But certainly sort of, GCSEs onwards.
Yeah,
he was really cool.
I still think at that point, coolness was highly correlated with sporting prowess.
I think it was. And I do remember that like on the first day of like year 7 or whatever, there was one kid in our form who was like really tall and sporty. And he was like, he immediately stood out as like, this guy's cool, Yeah. And there were a couple of others like that. But I think coolness also correlated with whether you hung out with girls.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. 100%.
Because it's like a boys' school and stuff. And, so like there was, I'd say, around year 7 and 8, the cool kids were hanging out with girls somehow via the girls' school next door and stuff. And I think most people weren't. And so it was like, whoa, these guys are cool.
But then, sort of on a similar vein, I think there was kind of a divide. Like if I think back to my year group, there was the cool kids who were good at sports who hung out with the traditionally good-looking girls, and then there were the kids who were less good at sports who hung out with the traditionally less good-looking girls. And there was definitely a cool hierarchy. Like it was, I think it was the sporting thing that kind of led to all these other kind of outcome measures of coolness. Whereas just the fact that you had female friends was not much of a prognostic indicator.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's weird actually.
Yeah. But then so in school I didn't really have a conscious thing about making friends until about year 9 or 10.
Oh.
That was when I kind of switched, my brain was switched on to this whole like self-improvement thing.
Yeah.
And the idea that you can, that just that it's even possible to change yourself, or just, even having that mind for the first time that, oh, hang on, I recognize this as a weakness within myself.
You awakened.
I was fully awakened, man. And I think what prompted this was that when I was 13, so that would have been year 8, 9.
You had your first love? That was a Justin Bieber reference. When I was 13, I had my...
Oh my God. Was that
Baby?
Is that Usher?
Yeah, it's like the rap,
Baby
whatever
featuring
rap
Usher.
I was doing.
Oh, damn.
Baby.
I mean, for me, it was just the chorus that I'd memorized.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know the rap bit. Clearly, you were much cooler than I was when Baby by Justin Bieber featuring Usher came out.
All right, so you were 13.
I was 13 and I just started my first job working at this tutoring center.
Oh, yeah.
Where we used to be students, and then, not to blow my own trumpet, but I was kind of a big deal because I was doing GCSE level maths at the age of, at the age of 10. And then I was in, I was desperate to become like an instructor, so like a helper.
Yeah.
So I help mark and help kids with their maths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I started this at the age of 14, which is, I think, at the time, the minimum legal age to sort of have female friends.
Right.
The minimum legal age to have a part-time job.
Yeah.
And I was the only boy there, and all the others were girls who were like year 11, and I was in like year 9, and I was like, oh my god, I need to figure out a way of making friends with these year 11 girls.
Yeah, these cool older girls.
Yeah, exactly. And I realized that I didn't have anything to talk about with them, and I just was kind of awkward and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was when I decided, you know what, I'm going to try making friends with these girls. So there were kind of two parallel streams that I took.
Okay. Yeah.
Parallel stream number 1 was that I started watching girly TV shows.
I remember this phase.
So I started watching like Gossip Girl and 90210, and then later The Vampire Diaries, and I absolutely freaking loved it because it was incredible. And I unlocked a whole aspect of my life that I didn't know I was interested in.
Well, okay, wait. So you enjoyed the TV shows, but you started doing it as a tool to make conversation with girls.
Because I heard that Imogen and Camilla or whatever her name was, Imogen and Georgina talking about 90210, and I was like, you know what? What's this 90210 stuff? And then I started watching. I was like, oh my god, this is sick. And then Gossip Girl around the same time. And then when you discover the CW network, and everything kind of spins off from that.
This is insane. You overheard them talking about a TV show, and you consciously thought, I'm going to start watching this TV show.
So I can connect with my fellow man.
No, I think it's really cool. I think it's fair game, but like, props to you for being so deliberate at that age.
Thank you. I feel like I peaked early. So I had that one stream of watching these TV shows to try and get in with people. There was a second stream where I started reading self-help books.
In year 9, year 10?
Year 9 and 10. So that was when a mutual friend discovered a book called The Game, which is all about how to pick up girls. And suddenly, he was telling everyone about it. He was like, oh my god, guys, I've just discovered this thing. You can improve your skills at picking up girls, blah 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 blah. And that just kind of led to this whole idea of that you can do stuff to improve yourself if you see weaknesses in yourself. So I started reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, and books about charisma and stuff like that. And sort of that's kind of stayed true to this day. And I think kind of reflecting, there was a third stream where I realized that my personality was kind of boring. So I became like super camp. Are we allowed to use the word camp these days?
I think
is
so.
It acceptable?
I think it's fine.
So I would kind of act like these girls at work would act. So for example, oh my god, Nate is so hot, or like, oh my god, Chuck's voice, stuff like that, and just kind of embodied this personality, kind of as a piss take, but also kind of as it was quite fun having this alter ego that I could just freely experiment with and kind of really gush over how attractive Chase Crawford was. And it was just interesting, and I found it like a really hacky, nice way to connect with these people. And then we ended up having good conversations and stuff that were beyond that. But I think that was like the gateway drug.
So I remember when you were going through this phase, because I think we went to like Pakistan for a wedding or something.
Yes.
And that was an interesting period, because sort of every evening there'd be like some wedding event at someone's house, and there'd be like a bunch of people that we didn't know, and we'd sort of mingle with the other kids and stuff. And you'd have this spiel of like, your whole thing was like, oh my god, I love Vampire Diaries, or like, oh my god, I love Justin Bieber, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember being really annoyed by that, because to me it just seemed extremely inauthentic. I was like, oh my god, what is this guy doing? Like,
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of annoyed as well, because it was sort of working. Like,
Yeah, it was working. I was hanging out with these people. People seemed to like it.
Yeah.
I had these new kind of female friends for the first time in my life. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I remember being annoyed by that.
That's how you do it.
Well played, I guess.
Well, thank you very much.
I don't think I had any conscious strategies at that time. Yeah, I wouldn't say I had any conscious strategies. I think things just kind of happened. I never really thought, I really want to be friends with that person. How am I going to make it happen, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think like with your friendship group, it was quite mixed. Like mine, I suppose if we were to stereotype, like I was friends with the nerds, whereas you kind of had a few different groups going, and then you had your Skype call, which
mate,
do you want to talk about the Skype
call? That was
a
formative period of my life. I had a group of friends, all fairly nerdy, but like also fairly cool, I think.
I don't think anyone else would describe.
We used to think so anyway.
Yeah.
And they were just like really into playing video games, and so they sort of play video games together every night on Skype. And I was slightly less into the video games, but I used to play occasionally with them
as a way to fit in.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it too. But I think I was friends with like a couple of them, and so I ended up joining this little group. And basically every evening we'd all just hang out on Skype together. Like 6 to 8 people in a Skype call. It didn't have to be that someone was talking all the time. It's just like hanging out, being in the presence of your friends, and then occasionally we'd like play games together and just like shoot the shit basically. And it was really, really fun. This went on for like a couple of years. It was like a massive source of joy in my life. You sort of get home and you hang out with your friends. It was super, super cool. I'd be like working on random I think that was around the time I started making websites and stuff, and I'd sort of send it to them, and we'd all like play around with it and stuff. And I made this site called Clickfilia, which was my first website, where it was sort of taking every game and its base form, which is just clicking a button and getting points. And so on ClickFiliate, all you had to do was repeatedly press a button, and your points would go up. And so we had a really fun few evenings where everyone was like on that, and they were like trying to hack it and all this kind of stuff. So I think that was like a really good group of friends, and it was a really nice period. But I think when I did start getting intentional about it was probably sixth form. Because I was like, okay, there's going to be like some new kids coming in the sixth form. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to like, I don't know about I don't think I was trying to reinvent myself per se. Actually, no, I do remember trying to reinvent myself.
Oh, in sixth form?
Yeah.
So that's kind of age 16, 17-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you mean trying to reinvent yourself?
Not completely change myself, but just like, I think my thinking was, these people have no, perception of who I am, and so I can behave in ways that reflect better on me. And so I remember like in the first few weeks, I made a real effort to be like really high energy and really sort of bubbly and friendly with everyone. And that was really nice. And I sort of got on with a lot of people and sort of made some, had some nice interactions, but it was just a lot of effort being that high energy. And I couldn't really sort of keep it up. And yeah, I ended up making a few sort of, really close friends, but not because of that thing.
Or the high energy thing. More.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of friendships were just based on proximity.
Yeah, like there was a guy who I sat next to.
Yeah, if you sit next to someone, chances are you're going to become friends with them.
Yeah, I sat next to him in maths. We just like, we really got on. We're like best mates, yeah. And yeah, I think towards the end of sixth form, sixth form was another good mixing pot because you sort of have free periods with people. And these were people that you literally might not have spoken to for the whole 6 years of school before that. And you kind of like share these free periods together. And so you'd end up just hanging out in the common room, playing some table football, eating toast together. And so that was another nice kind of low optionality way to make new friends almost.
Yeah, I agree. I think like in sixth form, specifically in year 13, the final year of school, was when I really started to actually sort of actively get to know the people that that weren't traditionally the nerds because of the free period vibe.
Yeah.
So in year 12, I didn't have any free periods because I was doing 5 A levels. Lol.
Oh yeah, you were one of those guys, weren't you?
One of those guys. But then I dropped English literature for A2 and suddenly had all these free periods, and I was just kind of making friends with people just randomly, and it was just really nice.
Yeah,
and
it was great.
I kind of got the vibe by the end of the year that actually, as you said, this nerd jock separation isn't really a thing anymore, and we're all kind of hanging out with each other. I think one other thing I actively did to try and be more popular and make friends was get into close-up magic.
Oh yeah.
So that was at the start of year 12, which was the first year of sixth form, when I was around 16, 17, and I watched an episode of the Penn and Teller show where Michael Vincent, this like amazing card magician, did this like amazing thing, and my mind was blown. So then I started learning magic and stuff, and then I started taking my deck of cards into school, and people would be like, "Oh my god, Alice, show us a trick!" And I remember we had this one biology trip where all the cool kids and the hot girls were kind of in their little friendship group, and would be hanging out. And then one of the quote cool kids came down to where I was and was like, "Oh, Ali, please can you show us a magic trick?" And I was like, "Right, lads, here we go." It felt incredible. This is like what I've been training for. So I went up to their room, and there was like I think it was like the girls' room, which was the, kind of the social hub for this. Yeah. For the cool kids network on this biology field trip in Wales, where we were counting kind of limpets on Earth Rock. Anyway, I was sitting on the floor. The girls were kind of on the bunk beds, and there was kind of like a crowd of like the cool guys around me.
Mate.
And then I did my invisible deck routine, which is an absolutely killer trick. It's like one of the best magic tricks in the world. And I pulled it off, and the showmanship around it was like really good. And on the final reveal, everyone was like, it was like a dynamo reaction. Oh my god, no way!
Yeah.
Oh my god, no way! And that just was like the best feeling ever. I was like, yes, this is me, man.
It's interesting that you say that as like you were happy with that. Because I was always quite wary of almost...
All these crutches.
Yeah, these crutches, because I think I would have felt like used or something. And so like, for example, I had a few sought after skills in school to do with like designing things and tech stuff and like photography and filmmaking and that kind of thing. And I was never keen on like doing that for other people, because I think it happened a few times where someone would have been like, "Oh, hey, can you like film this thing for us, or like be the photographer at this thing?" And I wouldn't have seen that as like, "Oh yeah, cool kids want to like be friends with me." I would have seen that as like, I would have felt used. I think I did feel used in times like that. And so I think if I was in your position with the magic thing, I would have been like really skeptical and wary of it. Like, did it actually work for making the friends?
it wasn't designed to be a making friendsy thing because I was super happy with my friendship group at the time. It was designed to be a increase my charisma, try and become more popular type thing.
Oh, okay.
Because at this time I was conscious of the medicine application process, and I knew I had to become more of a people person and be more bubbly and stuff, supposedly.
Yeah.
So I thought, this would be a nice way to kind of practice that and kind of step out the comfort zone. And this was sort of peak kind of self improvement books time for me.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so a big part of me was thinking, oh, okay, this is a great way to step outside of my comfort zone.
So what happened after you did the invisible deck to the cool kids room on the biology?
Oh, nothing. I mean, it was what it was.
Did you then leave the room?
Yeah, then left the room after a while. They were like all talking about it, being like, oh, I kind of made an exit, like, all right, guys, I'm going to get back to my friends. I'm the cool one here.
Yeah.
I'm the one leaving you guys.
Well, so you literally just did the trick and left?
No, I mean, I did the trick. They were asking how it's done. I had a few canned lines prepared, as all magicians do.
Yeah.
So, can you keep a secret? Yeah, me too.
Nice, yeah.
And then it was like, oh.
Yeah.
But no, then I just went down to my friends, and then the objective wasn't to become close friends with the cool kids. The objective was to get the validation of the cool kids.
Okay.
And so once I had that validation, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go back to my nerds and have a great time.
Yeah.
We were playing cards or something like that. But I think the magic thing is different to the photography, because there's a difference between being popular because you do magic versus being popular because you know how to fix a printer. And kind of your skills in demand were the fix a printer sort of skills.
Yeah.
Whereas magic is a performance art. It's like being popular because you're good at singing and playing the guitar and stuff. It's deliberately
it's more about you than
deliberately performative. So yeah, that was sort of my process for making friends. And then I think obviously the next stage was at university, where suddenly you don't know anyone and you're kind of in this melting pot of emotions.
Yeah.
How did you make friends at university?
So I think that was a pretty interesting time for me. I don't think I went in with the mindset of like, I'm going to reinvent myself. Yeah, I don't think it was like a reinvention mindset, because I'd kind of been through that in sixth form. I was like, okay, this doesn't really work. I'm not going to like radically change who I am or whatever, or change how I behave. I think at the start of university, I got quite lucky in that I found like a really nice group of people really, really quickly. So like in the first week or something, a bunch of people were like hanging out in my room, and we all really got on. Turned out to have a slight bias towards people who studied physics, and I perceived them as more nerdy and less cool, and we all perceived ourselves to be more nerdy and less cool. And I think there was I remember distinctly one turning point where like we were all hanging out.
Turning point.
We were all hanging out, and I think one of the guys made some joke about how we weren't cool. I think like we were having some like discussion about something really, I guess, nerdy, and he said something like, "Wow, we are not cool" or something. And I remember that being like A, really funny, and B, also like really nice, because it I was kind of feeling that way, and it kind of addressed the elephant in the room and kind of made it okay, because like it was a sort of like a self-acceptance kind of thing. But I still remember feeling quite insecure, because I was like, it's the first few weeks of uni. I do have this group of people who I enjoy spending time with, and we all get on. But maybe I should spread the net wider, and maybe I could be friends with the cooler people. And so I kind of entered university with this with the kind of school kid mentality of cool people and not cool people, and I perceived the sort of I guess sort of sportier, good-looking kind of people to be cool, and I perceived the opposites to be less cool, and so I felt insecure about that initially, and I kind of felt like maybe I should like try and be friends with the cool people. But I think towards the end of my first term, I realized that was a lost cause, and that what I had was actually I think I had a conversation with one of the people who I perceived to be quite cool. I think from like talking to them about like friends and stuff, it turned out that basically they hadn't really found a group, and they didn't really feel like they had any sort of friends yet, and things like that. And it kind of made me realize that actually what I have is pretty good. Most people are looking for exactly this kind of group where you really get on with them and everyone really likes each other, and I had that. And then I sort of was grateful for what I had, and kind of started living my life.
Nice. That's quite a nice heartwarming story.
Yeah,
story of acceptance with the cool kids, with the uncool kids. So for me, I kind of went in fully on the I need to make friends hype.
Really?
Yeah, no, 100%. It was like the biggest concern. I think it's a huge concern for a lot of people going to university. How will I make friends?
For sure.
And I had, luckily, I already knew a few people who'd been to Cambridge, and so I knew that I would want to get heavily involved in the Islamic Society and the Pakistan Society, because these people that I knew who went to Cambridge, they had all their best friends through that. Yeah. So I was fully on from day one that, look, I'm gonna make myself a decently sort of fun-loving member of these societies.
Yeah.
And so I went to every freshers event. I went to all the chills afterwards. I sort of tried to reinvent myself in in that I became a lot more high energy than I normally tend to be.
Yeah.
And that worked really well. Like, I made some fantastic friends through ISOC and PACSOC, to the extent that I actually neglected a few kind of college friendships. But then I sort of perceived at the time that actually, if it's a choice between hanging out with my white friends in college versus hanging out with my brown friends in PACSOC, I would pick the brown friends in PACSOC, 90% of the time.
Okay.
And so I didn't really feel that need to become friends with the cool kids. I think also there was still this sort of cool kid, less cool kid divide, at least the way I perceived it. I don't know if they perceived it as such, whereby kind of the cool kids would be the ones, traditionally the kind of sporty, loud, potentially good-looking types who would kind of go out drinking and clubbing and stuff together. And there would be also kind of, this person sleeping with that person, this and that. And that would all tend to be kind of one sort of friendship group. And then one thing that I actually was really surprised by was towards the end of first year, I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards with some other people, and they were part of this other friendship group that was very mixed, very diverse, very interesting, but where the people in it mostly were not traditionally cool.
Where the Yu-Gi-Oh card kids weren't traditionally cool.
Yu-Gi-Oh card There were actually a few kids in the Yu-Gi-Oh card kid crew. There was one guy who was like a university athletics runner or something.
Oh, cool.
So he was kind of fitting with the cool kids, but also kind of more with the university card kid.
Yeah.
And there were a handful of people in that group that previously I thought were quite cool, and then I was pleasantly surprised by how well I got on with them.
Yeah.
And that was the first sort of instance that made me realize that actually maybe this cool, this jock nerd thing isn't as much of a thing as I'm making out to be.
Yeah.
Especially because especially when the results came out at the end of first year, and I suppose I just kind of had in my head the bias that if someone's cool and sporty, they're not going to be a nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
And then suddenly some guy doing like economics or maths or something is top of his year group, and he's cool and he plays rugby, and I'm like, oh my god, this has completely blown my worldview apart, because sporting ability should be negatively correlated with academic ability, but that just wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So it was those two things that made me realize I just kind of ended up breaking down this separation in my head between the jocks and the nerds.
Yeah, I do remember that as well. Yeah, I think, after first year results, it was like, whoa, okay, all right. Got it. That's okay.
Yeah, and I suppose at university, my main strat was just kind of being high energy. But I also, at this point, I'd read a ton of self-help books and a lot of stuff about how to make friends. So I was actively implementing all of those. I made it a real point to become kind of the leader of the friendship group. There was this great book I read.
The leader? What the hell are you on about?
No, so there was this fantastic book. I can't remember where I read it, where I read it. But the point it was making was that, try and be the organizer of whatever social group you want to be a part of. So, for example, let's say you're super into ballroom dancing. Make an effort to join the committee of that thing, or kind of organize events yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like, okay, I'm all my close friends are in the Pakistan Society. I'm going to make it a point to get on that committee and try and become president or something like that, because it just kind of means you've got fingers in more pies as such within that society. And so I started sort of volunteering my room as a place to hang out and stuff like that. And I think that continued for the whole 6 years at university. Even the final 3 years where I didn't really have any Asian friends, I kind of made my room the social hub. And that was just really, really nice, because I personally don't really value privacy that highly. And so I would not have any qualms at all with people being in my room and hanging out.
Yeah.
I made a lot of friends through proximity that way, which was really nice.
Yeah, I think the sort of I sort of had the open door policy as well. I didn't really care about privacy, and it's nice to have people around. And there'd always be people like squatting in my room even when I wasn't there and stuff like that. And that was a nice way to almost bring the social hub to you. So I did some like committee stuff. So there was some stuff I was quite interested in. I joined the Entrepreneurship Society and joined the committee and all that kind of stuff. But I found that I actually didn't really make friends through that. And I think it was kind of just my attitude towards it, because I'd sort of, when it came to sort of business stuff for this society or whatever, like organizing events and going to committee meetings and stuff, I'd do all of that, but I never really took any of those connections outside of the society into just being like friends. And I think it was partly because, I just didn't know how. I was like, okay, even if there was a person who I thought seemed cool, and not like cool in the sort of cool versus not cool way, but cool as in I want to be friends with this person, I just wouldn't think to do anything about it. And it wasn't until fourth year that I actually realized that, if you like someone, you can just ask them to hang out, and that's how you make friends. And I remember there was this time where I met this guy through some friends. A few of us were hanging out. We all had dinner or something, and I got on with this guy. And I went away thinking, oh yeah, that was a cool guy. Presumably he went away thinking the same about me. And then a few days later, he messaged saying, hey, it was really nice to meet. Do you want to like get coffee or something? And I remember my mind was completely blown. It's like, whoa, you could just do that?
You just ask people out for coffee?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I felt like, I felt so nice because it was basically someone saying, hey, I want to be your friend. Whereas before, that was never explicitly stated. It's like you end up hanging out with people and stuff. And you're obviously good friends, but at no point has anyone said, hey, I want us to be friends. And I think this guy did it. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell have I been doing for 4 years? I've literally never done that to anyone. I think I was really fortunate in that sort of people asked me to hang out with them and stuff like that. And because of proximity, I ended up hanging out with people. But I never deliberately reached out to anyone, even if I thought, I really wanted to be friends with them. So maybe I should have read your self-help book that said, be the social hub leader, organize the things, maybe. And invite people to stuff. But
then, like, on that note, I think I also haven't done that as explicitly as I would like to. So for example, I remember a few weeks ago, I was invited to this football match between the vascular surgery team and the general surgery team.
Yeah.
And after that, there was this guy who's another F1 in my year group that I always thought was kind of cool. I want to get to know him. So after this, we were sort of chatting a bit, and I was like, hey, I'm going to grab some food at Costa. Do you want to join? And he was like, oh, actually, yeah, that'll be good.
Whoa.
And that was really nice. We had like a great chat, and then some other people just happened to be walking past, and they were like, hey, actually, guys, we're all going for this all-you-can-eat sushi. Do you guys want to come? We've got a car. And we both kind of looked at each other and were like, yeah, all right, why not? And that was really nice. Got to know some people, and I think I want to do more of this explicit, just kind of messaging someone and be like, hey, do you want to grab dinner?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think one thing that I did is I sort of overcorrected onto the invite everyone to everything.
Yes, I remember this. I remember being
so I was big on the open door policy, and especially when I was president of like Pakistan Society, I didn't want it to seem as if I did not at all want it to be cliquey. I wanted to be like, what, we're having a chill in my room. I'll put out a mass invite. Yeah, I know that only my closest friends will come, but just in case there is some first year who doesn't know what to do and is bored because all the college people are going clubbing, at least it gives them the option. And I think that definitely brought a few people in and kind of helped them out at a vulnerable time when they didn't have any other friends.
Yeah.
But sort of overcorrecting it to the point where when we started F1 being doctors, I'd have me and Molly would have like parties at our place. Parties is a strong word, more like gatherings with board games and stuff. And rather than invite people individually, I just kind of post it on the WhatsApp group and just kind of be like, oh, whatever, people are going to come.
Yeah.
But I think I would have made closer friends had I actively sought out the people that I thought I thought were cool, that I wanted to be friends with.
Yeah.
And just kind of be like, hey guys, the four of us, should we go for dinner or something?
Yeah.
Rather than always having to make it a mass group invite.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think even with mass group invites, it puts a lot of burden on the other person to actively reach out and come to your event.
Yeah, for sure.
So unless they really, really want to, then, it's just not necessarily going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's good to have both sort of, I think open door policy in general is a nice thing, but also being deliberate about smaller intimate groups is really nice. And I think I'm completely baffled that I didn't realize this until fourth year, because I had friends who'd always be making the effort with me. So my friend Arthur, who I ended up sharing a room with in second and third year, and now we're really good friends. He's actually getting married in a few months' time. I remember in first year, he lived on the other side of college to me, which, okay, in absolute terms, that was a 4-minute walk. But the other side of college in first year was like, oh man, I had, people I knew literally 30 seconds away. And so I literally never made the effort to go over to his place and hang out. But every day he'd basically come in the afternoon and we'd sit down and have tea in my room and stuff like that. I think I was, really lucky that other people did this deliberate thing. And I think even now I probably don't do it enough. So for example, I don't want to skip too far ahead and jump to last week when I was in Malawi. But yeah, basically after this Malawi thing, I really wanted to stay in touch with people. And a couple of people sort of, we had a group chat on WhatsApp. I feel a bit weird talking about this because a few of the people are actually now podcast listeners. So
no way.
Hopefully they won't listen to this
hopefully
episode
they won't have gone this far ahead.
A few months. Yeah. Yeah, a few people were just private messaged me outside of the WhatsApp group saying, hey, it was really nice to meet you. Let's be friends in real life. Let's
really, is that what they said? Let's be friends in real life.
Let's be friends in real life. It was just, it's super nice. And I was like, wow, I actually felt the same way, but I didn't take that initiative, even though I felt the same way. And so, yeah, I think I should still definitely do more of that. But one other thing I wanted to talk about was that it's easy to look back on this stuff and look back on your mental states and sort of map it all out very clearly of I used to think some people were cool and I used to think I was uncool and all this kind of stuff. But it really, until about third year, I think I kind of realized that I saw the world in this sort of cool versus uncool thing. But what I didn't realize was that I think we've talked about this in previous episodes. I think, yeah, I felt like I can't be friends with certain types of people who I perceive as cool and stuff. And I think that really stopped me from connecting with people who, some of which I now have connected with and I'm good friends with. But I'm sure there are others where, because I had this weird sort of insecurity about like, this guy's too cool for me, I didn't end up connecting with them, and it sort of held me back socially at the time, and I didn't realize it at all. And when I sort of started to realize this in third year, I was like, whoa, this is insane, even though it sounds very obvious to look back on it and describe the phenomenon now.
Yeah.
Did you have people like that? Did you see people who were like, you thought, oh man,
I just assumed I wouldn't be friends with them, until sort of I realized a few of them were in this Yu-Gi-Oh crew, and then I was like, oh
yeah.
You know, that was kind of a game-changing moment. There was this thing that you said about taking the initiative reminds me of like a very nice piece of life advice that I love to refer to. And I can't remember where I read this, but it was along the lines, it was in one of these How to Make Friends types books. And the thesis was that everyone is nice, but you have to go first.
Yeah.
And if you're the one to say hello, to take the initiative, you realize that actually everyone is really nice. And we all kind of live in this world whereby we're sort of going by and we're thinking that actually we don't want to be a nuisance. We don't want to, whatever.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even consider it. But actually, if you're the one who says hello to someone on the train, they're probably going to be nice about it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But they're probably not going to take the initiative.
Yeah, the thing is, it is a big sort of moment of vulnerability to say to someone that, hey, I want to be friends with you. It's almost like, it's actually definitely way more vulnerable than like asking someone out on a date, for example. Because if you ask someone out on a date, it's like, hey, will you go out with me? It's like, okay, this person, presumably you don't know this person that well at this point. If they say no, it's like, yeah, whatever, not the end of the world. But if you ask someone, hey, can we be friends? And then it turns out they don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah, that's like your whole...
Yeah, they're rejecting your entire being rather than just, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how kind of the world changes such that kind of when you're young, it's so easy to ask people to be friends with you.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to ask someone on a date.
Yeah.
But now it's just like, ask someone on a date. Yeah, whatever. Ask someone, will you be my friend? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm putting my whole life on the line.
That's really profound. I think we should end it on that profound note.
I think that is a great place to wrap up. One thing that we actually wanted to do was we should have done this at the start, is that we want to give a shout out to people who have been saying nice things about the podcast. So I was reading a review earlier from Headless Rhino, who says, great podcast between two brothers, really interesting topics about productivity, philosophy, life hacks, touches on a lot of societal and individual perception and how we conceptualize, which I like. Can only imagine it'll get even better and refined with time. Smiley face. So thank you, Headless Rhino. If you'd like to be shouted out on the podcast, we're going to do like a thing at the start of every episode where we kind of shout out an email or a review or whatever we got. So do please leave us a review in the iTunes store or send us an email at hi@notoverthinking.com. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, just one final note. We're still behind on emails, but I think I've now replied to emails that were sent up to like the second week of July or something.
Okay, that's not too bad. We're only 2 weeks behind then. And we're going to make this shared Gmail account that we can both.
Yeah.
So
today
we're going to do that.
Yeah, set this up, and so then we'll be on top of emails. But yeah,
Sick.
keep the emails coming. Really, really appreciate them.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Bye.